Candace Owens is in a world of trouble, I fear. These new updates may bankrupt her and potentially end her show that she's been doing on YouTube for the last decade. So, Candace has been involved in his ongoing feud with the president of France and his wife Bridget, where Candace is accusing Bridget of being born a man and then transitioning to a woman after the first 30 years of her life. She would claim there's no record of Bridget Macron ever existing, and she would also show like childhood pictures of what would be Bridget's brother, but Candace would claim that the brother is actually her as a child. So the theory is as follows: the little boy on your far left, Jean-Michel, Candace will claim that Jean-Michel is actually Bridget, and for the first 30 years of Bridget's life, she was actually Jean-Michel, and then she transitioned to Bridget, and then all traces of Jean-Michel disappeared. That there's no trace of Jean-Michel after the first 30 years of his life, right when Bridget transitioned. The issues involving Bridget Macron and the president of France extend far beyond whatever gender this person is. She met the president of France when he was 14 and she was 40 and she was his teacher. And they began an intimate relationship and ultimately got married. I feel like that should be the story. Like, that's what we should be focused on. Not this other guess who mystery gender reveal, bruh. To me, I don't care nothing about that. But Candace Owens would be adamant about the theory, even though it sounds pretty wacky and kind of almost impossible to pull off.
It's time for you to wake up. So we will start from the top here with a photo of Brigitte Macron. Real name, Jean-Michel Trogneau. That person that you are looking at on the right is not a woman. Okay? Here is a photo, by the way, just over the years, Jean-Michel Trogneau, as he became Brigitte. As I said, the evidence for this is overwhelming. That second photo, I believe they found a photo of him at a pride parade when he was just living as a homosexual man. That next photo is when the transition began, if I recall correctly, and that's a photo from the professor years. And the professor years of Brigitte Macron is when he statutorily Emmanuel Macron. Those are not the prerequisites, by the way. Like, to becoming a leader of a world country, you gotta like be in drama class, like Zelensky. You got to be a homosexual, like a lot of them tend to be. And are the new prerequisites that you need to have something in your closet like this and the entire state is going to work feverishly to protect the secret?
Candace Owens is one of the best at what she does. I watched Becoming Bridget every episode, and it was very convincing. And because it was very convincing, this made world news. Everybody was sold, I believe, bro. Most people watched that Candace Owens Becoming Bridget series, and they were sold because it was just too many mystery, too many flaws, too many holes. It just didn't make sense. And because the world was convinced, it was heaping a lot of pressure on the president of France and Brigitte. And they were very concerned. So they even stepped in and tried to get Donald Trump to tell Candace Owens to knock it off and stop calling Brigitte a man because she was born a woman. And Donald Trump tapped in. Donald Trump tried to get her to back off, but it didn't work.
Something happened all the way back in February, and I was sworn to secrecy temporarily, and I feel that today is the correct day to inform audiences because it may have some severe global implications. So here is what happened, all right? I realize that Emmanuel Macron is in Washington, D.C., February 24th. He is in Washington, D.C., and he had departed the White House just hours before I received the call. When I call that person back, they tell me something that is even stranger. Emmanuel Macron is holding up negotiations to end the Russian and Ukrainian war unless you stop speaking about his wife. And I'm just going, what? And I get another message that's like, hey, keep your phone on. And anyways, this phone call is coming from Florida. I pick up the phone and lo and behold, so here's what happened. I'm negotiating this thing. I'm negotiating Ukraine and Russia, and you wouldn't believe how many parts are part. It is President Donald J. Trump. He is calling me, and in true President Trump fashion, he jumps right into the narrative.
I'm not here to call Candace Owens a liar, all right? Because I actually like Candace Owens, but one would say if the president is contacting you to let you know, hey man, yo, I know them, bro. Like, that's a woman, Candace. Can you chill, man? It's causing them great grief. That probably would have been a time to kind of step back from off the ledge and use that as an excuse as, hey, man, the president want me to stop people. I'm going to stop. If their lawyers are sending you legal notices to your lawyer and they're sending you some proof and saying, this is not enough proof, I feel like the president, her proof, you know what, let me step back from off the ledge, okay? This is really not worth me risking my entire like career and professional reputation on the line for. But Candace Owens kept going. So eventually the president and Bridget, they filed an official lawsuit and sent Candace Owens a notice that they'll be suing her. That didn't scare Candace Owens, and she still didn't back down. As a matter of fact, Candace Owens doubled down some more and came back on YouTube to say that she's 100% sure that Bridget was born Jean Michael.
You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood. Figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine. For whatever reason, to phone, by the way, like I said, we'll get to the bottom of it, right? That is what discovery is for. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. You're probably hoping, this will go away and at least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file for this to get dismissed. I'd like to make it to discovery. I think that we owe that to the world. Anyways, you guys, we are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
My approach has always been when it comes to accusations. Trust me, I've been lied on plenty on YouTube. These dudes literally created think pieces and videos accusing me of being on the offender registry. And then once it was proven that I wasn't on the offender registry, and I've never had a federal case, I've never been in prison, I'm not a career criminal, it's just a lie, they then said, I never accused you of being on the registry. I just asked, who's this guy called David Johnson? Huh? Huh? What? Excuse me? So as somebody who's been on the receiving end of just straight up lies and defamation, which by the way, I'm still pursuing, it's far from over because I'm gonna get my revenge. You feel me? No, they're gonna have to pay for lying on me. I've always been on the side of is on the person who's making the accusations to prove it. It's on the person who's making the accusation and prove that whatever they're saying is true. So if Candace Owens saying, give me blood DNA to prove that you're not this, that's not really how it works. You're supposed to prove this person is that, right? It's on you. And if you can't, well, now you open yourself up for defamation. So Steven Crowder, though, would actually, he hates Candace Owens, so take whatever Steven Crowder is saying with a grain of salt. But Steven Crowder would make a video where he says that they actually provided Candace Owens with plenty proof that Bridget was not born Jean Michael.
Doctors to take your blood, figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine.
Yeah, so here's the problem, and if you read the entire filing, and I read 100-something pages of it last night, they actually already did directly send proof to Candace, said pictures, childhood pictures of Bridget. They did send evidence of Bridget's biological motherhood of 3 children. They did send pictures of her of her wedding when she was young. And there already is sworn testimony, for example, from the children and from the, I don't know if sworn testimony, but the previous husband. So she's now moving goalposts and saying, take a blood test. They did also, by the way, send the birth announcement, not a certificate, but an announcement. So newspaper clippings, pictures, sworn testimony, evidence, and this has all been provided to her for a long time. Now remember, Candace went public and said that President Trump called her and told her to back off Bridget. The issue is, as always, there's no proof. There's no proof that it happened.
Other than, subjecting herself to a striptease, and even that may not be enough, because Candace may say, there's gender surgery going on now to where they can remove the bottom half. Other than that, which I don't feel like no first lady will subject herself to being stripped down for somebody to come and verify so Candace Owens' mind can be appeased, or giving her blood to Candace Owens. Other than that, I feel like the only other option is to what? Send in, here's the birth records of my kids. Here's, the birth being announced in the newspaper. Yo, I was married before two, but that still was not enough for Candace Owens. Candace Owens now says she wants blood samples so she could verify that she was born Brigitte Macron and not Jean-Michel. Now, the twisty part about this is Jean-Michel, or Jean-Michel, I should say, is actually still alive, right? Like if he's alive, to me, that's the part where you kind of have to hop off the train, because if Jean-Michel could be traced back, it's kind of like, then what are we doing here? You feel me? Like, what are we doing here? Now, I'm not going to go as far as Steven Crowder claiming that Candace Owens may have lied about the Trump thing. I do believe that Trump called her, because if Trump didn't call Candace Owens, Trump would be on Truth Social calling Candace Owens a fat liar. Like, so yeah, I do believe that Trump did tap in, because this was something that the French president really cared about. So after Brigitte Macron apparently proved, because Jean-Michel is also part of the filing, and they actually provided Candace Owens more proof, actually, since the lawsuit, that Brigitte was actually born and she's a real person, and Jean-Michel is another person who's not Brigitte. Candace Owens actually came back with a more humble tone. Now, this is where I looked at this and said, yeah, Candace Owens messed up badly. Candace Owens is now coming back with an alternative theory after discovering that her first theory was wrong, that Brigitte was actually born and is a real person, and Brigitte is a different person from Jean-Michel. Candace Owens is now back with an alternative theory, this time more humble and not as brazen and confident and cocky as she was in her last address to the French president and his wife.
It is very clear that Brigitte Trogneau existed. It is very clear that she was, in fact, the sister of Jean-Michel Trogneau. And I think that if I am guessing what took place here, Jean-Michel Trogneau took Brigitte Trogneau's identity at some point. It's very obvious he kind of becomes his sister. That's what seems to be the most logical conclusion based off of everything. So the question that people ask is, okay, if you're operating under that theory, what happened to the real Brigitte Trogneau? And so if we are to believe that, I do believe that Brigitte Trogneau, the real Brigitte Trogneau, existed, it's plausible that Brigitte Trogneau got sick, that the real Brigitte Trogneau got sick and perhaps had a dying wish to help her brother, Jean-Michel Trogneau, who was living perhaps as Veronique, right? And knowing that, okay, well, he's never going to be allowed to live his life authentically. He's always going to be always going to be hiding and doing these sorts of things, because this is just not a time where people are recognizing this transgendered identity. Well, what if she gifted her brother her identity? Here, this is not a thing yet. You can just become me. Okay, that's, again, we're surmising. There's no evidence that Brigitte Trogneau died. There's no evidence of that. But that's what it feels like to me. It feels like to me that Brigitte Trogneau did her brother, the real Brigitte Trogneau, did her brother a favor and allowed him to become her.
Now, Candace, you're wrong, man, playing in these folks' faces, man. You foul, bro, playing in these people's faces. Yo, this is the part where Candace just says, hey, bro, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I got it wrong, people. I apologize. But, hey, I asked for proof. She didn't give... But she quite literally proves to you that the theory that Brigitte is not a person, that theory don't exist. That theory was false, and she's providing you proof that I was born a woman, like I'm Brigitte, and you're still saying that you believe that Brigitte died and Jean-Michel took over the identity of, when Jean-Michel is apparently still alive. Like, he's just off the grid, feel me? But apparently he could produce himself, and he's 80 years old. Now, this is horrible, man. This is not good at all, man. Yo, and this lawsuit is pushing forward. And this is not a good sign. Once you're already admitting and owning up that, damn, Brigitte is a real person. And you're saying, man, I'm not saying that she died because I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't explain myself at this point. Well, what's going to be explained in court? How much paper you got to give up? How much of this podcast equity you got to give up? They about to do Candace like they did Alex Jones, homie. It's about to be bad. What you mean you can't explain it? It's probably because we now again, I give her credit because I bought it. Like I believed it probably wholeheartedly. Candace Owens made a very convincing point, which is why she'll probably have to pay up a whole lot more because she was too convincing with it. Even after the lawsuit, she says you were born and you will die this. Yo, Candace Owens also stated that she would stake her professional reputation on this.
A year ago, when I said that I would stake my entire professional career on the fact that Brigitte Macron, the current First Lady of France, was born a man.
Now what? Now how are subscribers or consumers or watchers of Candace Owens, how are they supposed to react to this? Because there's a 99.9% chance that Candace Owens was wrong and this person was not born Jean-Michel, and Jean-Michel is a real person and Brigitte is a real person, and Candace Owens just got caught up in a strange conspiracy, went too far deep in a rabbit hole, and now her professional career will always have a black mark to it. But let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this, man? Do y'all believe that Candace Owens is telling the truth? Or do y'all believe that the cleanup and the sweep of Candace Owens' bank account is about to happen, okay? Let me know in the comment section what you think. And if you're still watching, click on this video here somewhere on my screen, somewhere here, or here on my screen to find out why Ebro, this hip-hop media legendary radio personality, find out how he keeps getting more unhinged and worse as the years go by. This recent statement of his, quite frankly, is the most unhinged I've seen Ebro probably since I've started watching Ebro for about 2 decades now. But before I forget and before I go, let me get a out of here, folks. Peace.